Hi friends, I'm Bonnie Harris Hayden. I'm an attorney. I work for the American Heart Association. I do charitable estate planning for the Heart Association. So that means that I help people who want to give gifts through their estates to the Heart Association. But I also go out into the community and I help educate people, our constituents, volunteers, community members about estate planning. And I help by presenting information at senior centers and women's groups and all different kinds of places that people would find helpful in making sure that their estate plans are done and set up to take care of their families. And I do these public speaking engagements, and unfortunately I can't be in front of you right now, so we're doing it this way, the high-tech way. So today I thought that it would be really nice to talk about a wonderful subject, our pets. My pet is in the room right now. You might hear some heavy breathing, and that's actually my dog. Her name is Noodle. Pets are wonderful for reducing stress and anxiety and helping with our mental and emotional states. And they're also really fantastic for giving us a reason to get out into the fresh air and do some exercise. And I think that they tie in nicely with estate planning, in that there are things we can do to provide for our pets in case something happens to us where we're not able to take care of our pets. And so the main thing that we can do is to set up what's called a pet trust. And a pet trust is a legally sanctioned arrangement providing for the care of your animal or animals that are alive during your lifetime. So that is what a pet trust is. And I have a wonderful friend, like family here, Leonard, who you will hear asking some questions during this presentation so that we can move the conversation forward, and hopefully he'll be asking some things that you would be asking yourself while you're watching this. So Leonard, do you have a question?
Yeah. How is the pet trust actually set up? Where is it?
Yeah, that is a great question. So the pet trust itself is a paragraph or sections in your revocable living trust. So some people who have done their estate planning have a revocable living trust, and inside of that trust, sometimes there are different types of other trusts that are set up inside of it. There might be a trust inside your trust for your children. There might be a trust inside your trust for someone in your family who has special needs, a special needs trust. They're in the same document as your revocable living trust, it just has its own section or paragraph. And so your pet trust is the same. It's in your revocable living trust, and it has the provisions that will take care of your pet inside of it. Now, another question might be, where is your pet trust if you don't have a revocable living trust? Then where does it go? Where does it live? Your pet trust could then be a section in your will. So some people who don't have a revocable living trust can still have a will. And in California, we are allowed to have what's called a holographic will. A holographic will is a handwritten will, not typed, but written by hand, by your hand, and it is completely legal in the state of California. So if you don't have any estate planning right now, but you have a wonderful pet who you really love and want to take care of and do a pet trust for, you can write out your will, and you can make a provision in there to take care of your pet. As long as you handwrite it, sign and date it, then that will count and be legal and enforceable in the state of California. And I'm talking about California because we're in California. But if you have questions about how pet trusts are handled in other states, you can certainly go to the ASPCA's website and do a little search, ASPCA Pet Trusts, and they have a page on the internet that you can see the law of pet trusts in any state. So that's kind of where your pet trust lives, either in your revocable living trust or in your will. And so now Leonard, who is well over 6 feet away from me, has another question. Yes?
How long does it last?
That depends on the state that you live in. So there is no federal probate code. Each state has its own probate law, and the laws that govern your pet trust are in your state's probate code. And so each state has its own way that they handle this. Generally speaking, a pet trust can last either 21 years or for the life of your pet. That's important, because what if you have a pet that is a parrot or a tortoise or a horse? Those animals can live way past 21 years, and they can certainly live longer than you might live. So it's best to have a pet trust that lasts for the life of your pet. In California, our law was passed in 2008. Every state has a pet trust law now. The last one was Minnesota, but every state has it. Ours was passed in 2008. It's Uniform Probate Code Section 15212, in case you want to look that up. And so it's for the life of the pet. And if no trustee is designated for some reason, or the trustee, the person you chose to administer this pet trust, cannot do it, and you don't have a backup designated for them, then the law states that a court can designate someone. And there doesn't need to be an accounting of the assets of what's inside of the pet trust in California unless it has more than $40,000 in it. So that's the law. The law also states that the pet or pets that you're taking care of with this trust need to be alive at the time that you are alive. So, for example, if you pass away and then some pet comes into, I don't know, your estate somehow, or your spouse's estate or something like that, that pet's not going to be provided for necessarily in your pet trust. I mean, if you have a spouse, then you're going to have a joint trust. But just know that you can't take care of pets you don't have. You can't take care of future pets that are living, that are born after you pass away. You can take care of pets that you have right now. And you can take care of them with your pet trust even after you're not here to take care of them. If you don't want to specify your certain pet's names, because sometimes pets change. So if you don't want to say, my pet trust is for my dog Noodle, and then maybe in 10 years I'll have another pet or a different pet, and you don't want to have to keep changing that, you can have it generally state that the trust addresses the pets that are alive at the time of your passing. So you can do that too. So that's how long it lasts.
What kind of information can we put in it?
There's all kinds of information that we can put into a pet trust, and we have to be really careful about kind of how we state these things so that your goals are accomplished. First, we need to identify the pets that it addresses. Now, I just said it could be general, and it can. But if you really want to specifically identify the pets that you have in your life right now, you can definitely do that. And there have been some interesting issues that have come up with this over the years, because I have heard of, for example, a dog that was 25 years old, 30 years old. Now, how do you get a dog that's 25 or 30 years old? Well, maybe if that dog is having $25,000 a year set aside for their care, and that's a very nice thing for the trustee, maybe the trustee substituted a new dog that looked exactly like the old dog so that they could keep getting those funds for the dog's care, and all of a sudden you have a 30-year-old dog. So how do we avoid fraud and things like that? We can do DNA testing. We can do microchipping. We can certainly have photographs taken of the pet, blood tests, and have that information attached to your main trust or your estate plan so that it all lives together so that your pet can be properly identified. When I first started practicing law many years ago in California, I had to do a pet trust for 16 parrots. And each parrot had to be described and photographed and properly identified and named, and all of this had to be attached to the trust because some of those birds cost over $100,000, $200,000. There was almost $2 million worth of birds in the pet trust, and so we really had to make sure they were identified properly. We also need to make sure who owns the pet. Who actually owns your pet? So this wonderful picture right here is here because this dog is beautiful, but also because this is my dog Nev that I had before I had my wonderful little dog Noodle. And Nev's a retired seeing eye dog. And Nev was originally trained and owned by Guide Dogs for the Blind. And Guide Dogs for the Blind paid $40,000 to train Nev to be a guide dog. And Nev was a guide dog for 9 years. And when I received Nev to take care of her in her retirement, there was an actual deed. Just like you have a deed to your house, there was a deed to this dog that came with her to us. And we didn't even technically own Nev. The Guide Dogs for the Blind owned her. But she was retired, and so we went ahead and we took care of her. But it's a really good question about making sure that the pet that you're doing a pet trust for is a pet you actually own. Because I'm sure you've heard about racehorses too. You know, racehorses, sometimes a dozen different people can own a racehorse, right? So who owns your pet? Another piece of information that we can and need to put into your pet trust is who's going to take care of your pet if something happens to you. So there's 3 different positions that can be designated inside your pet trust, right? So there's the trustee of your pet trust, who is the person that's actually going to take care of distributing the money for the care of your pet and the administration of your trust. So you need to designate that person. Then you need to designate the caregiver, who's physically going to be taking your dog for a walk and feeding them and living with them into the vet. And that might be your trustee. Your trustee and your caregiver could be the same person. And then the other person you need to think about for your trust is what's called the enforcer. Or trust protector, and that's somebody who can come along and make sure that the trustee is doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing in terms of administering the trust. And if you trust your trustee, then that's okay. You don't need that person. But if you don't have someone in your life that you feel fully comfortable with, then you might want to pick an enforcer or trust protector as well. So another piece of information that goes into your pet trust is, where will your pet go? Is it going to go to a person who you really love and trust, a neighbor, a friend, a family member? If you don't have someone like that, is your pet going to go to some kind of adoption agency or shelter? That's totally fine. But if you're going to have your pet go to some kind of shelter, make sure of a few things. Make sure that the shelter is still in existence. Make sure that if it's going to go to a shelter, that you put the federal tax ID number of the shelter into the pet trust, because sometimes shelters change addresses. So if you have it go to the I Love Dogs agency on Venice Boulevard, but the I Love Dogs agency is on Sawtell Boulevard by the time you pass away, maybe there's going to be some confusion about where your pet is supposed to go. But that federal tax ID number is never going to change. So you can put the address, but put that federal tax ID number. Also make sure that if that agency can't take your pet, that you have another designated backup for that person or agency, right? Because sometimes by the time you pass away, maybe your sister is having some health problems and she can't take your dog. Maybe that agency doesn't exist anymore, and so then where is your pet going to go? Also check and see, does the agency have a waiting list for the pets? I just had an experience where someone designated an agency, and it would have never even occurred to me to think, oh my gosh, this agency has a waiting list, so the pet couldn't even go there. Or does the agency have a fee that needs to be paid for the care of the pet for the rest of their life? And if so, make sure that the trust has enough money in it to pay for that fee. And so that comes also to another thing you need to put in your trust, which is money. How much money do you want to fund your pet trust with? How much money do you think it's going to take care of your pet for the rest of their life? Their food, their medical bills, their toys, different things for your pet. What's kind of fair? Some people just say, I'm setting aside $5,000, and if my dog lives another 30 years, well, then I just hope that the person who's taking care of them loves them more than $5,000. And sometimes people are very calculated about it. You can say, I would like a certain amount of dollars per month to go for the care of my pet, $250 a month. You can just do one lump sum. There's all different ways that you can do it. You can say, I would like the vet bills to be paid directly to the vet by the trustee, instead of just the money go into the caregiver's hands. So there's all different ways. There are limits. So Leona Helmsley set aside $12 million in a pet trust for her dog Trouble. Now, a pet is considered property, and property can't inherit property, but that's why we have the pet trust, so other people can manage this. A court found that was excessive and reduced the amount in the pet trust for Trouble to $2 million. So the limit is that the amount in the pet trust has to be reasonable. And if someone has a problem with that and goes to court, the court will decide whether or not that's reasonable. Another thing that you can put in your pet trust is, if there is money left in the trust after the animal passes away, where does that money go? Does it go to the caregiver as a gift, or to the trustee as a gift, or does it go to your favorite charity? Where does it go? So that needs to be provided for as well. And finally, the pet trust should provide for the final disposition of your pet. Leonard?
How does the pet trust work in real life when I can't take care of my pet? What happens then?
Yeah, so practically speaking, when you become incapacitated or pass away, the trustee needs to be able to get access to your pet and make sure that it's taken to the caregiver, even if the trustee is the caregiver. So maybe you want to think about that. Maybe the trustee needs a key to your house. Maybe the trustee and the caregiver need to have each other's phone numbers and need to kind of know each other a little bit. Maybe you want to give a copy of your pet trust, just that section, to your vet at the vet's office and make sure that they have that on file. And so after you pass away, if things are confusing, maybe there can be arrangements for the pet to stay boarded at your vet's until the caregiver is in place, and then the dog or cat or horse or parrot can go to the caregiver. So think about these things and make sure all of that information is handy and easy to find, and with your estate plan, if you have an estate plan. Which kind of brings me to another subject related, which are advanced healthcare directives. Because the reason that the pet trust is happening is because you're not able to care for your pet. You're either incapacitated or not with us anymore. And so the question is, if you're incapacitated, who's taking care of you? And what is going on with you and your medical decisions? And so you should also, very importantly, have an advanced healthcare directive, which is an element of an estate plan, but it is a same thing as a medical power of attorney or living will. An advanced healthcare directive are your instructions to your, what's called an agent, to explain to them how you want to be cared for if you're not able to care for yourself. And that's only in effect when you can't care for yourself. So understand that if you get in a car accident and you can't handle your finances for, if you get in a car accident and you're in the hospital and you need medical care and someone needs to make your medical decisions for a couple of months, then your agent for your advanced healthcare directive is going to make those decisions for you. There's also the financial aspect as well, which is taken care of in a financial power of attorney, a different document that we can talk about at a different time. So just be sure that if you have an advanced healthcare directive, that it's up to date. They don't expire, but the laws change about every 5 years or so, so try and make sure it's fresh. Certainly choose a medical power of attorney who you know and you trust. It might not be the same person that handles your money. You might have two different people for those two different things, or it could be the same person. You can certainly give a copy to your doctor's office to have on file, and you can even create an advanced healthcare directive yourself. Staples has forms, and you can go online and see those kind of templates. There are templates that can be okay. Revocable living trust, things like that are a little more complicated, a little different, but the advanced healthcare directive, you can definitely poke around and find one yourself. And since we are kind of in an extraordinary time right now, it's important for us to think about these things, and not in terms of an omen or a bad omen or anything like that, but just be smart, and like we say, just sort of control the controllables. And you can control having your affairs in order and taking care of your family, whether they're pets or humans or whomever you want. And so we just, at the Heart Association, we want to wish all of you and your families good health and safety. And I'm very happy to be a resource for you if you have questions about estate planning, pet trusts, your own estate plan, if you need referrals to an attorney, and if you have questions about anything else that the Heart Association can help you with, I have some resources to show you now. Okay, here is my name and my email address, and you are welcome to email me with any questions, and if you would like to call me on the phone, just send me an email and we can set up a time to talk, and I'm happy to help you in any way that I can with your estate planning questions. And then if you have other questions about the Heart Association and the work that we're doing, this is our website, heart.org. And you can also call our 1-800 number and you can ask about anything that's going on in your local area. You can ask about what we're doing about COVID-19, how we're responding to it. We are doing so much. You can also call this 1-800 number. It's 888-227-5242. And you can ask for me and they'll transfer you to me. You can also pop online and just search American Heart Association Planned Giving if you want to learn more about all the different ways that you can do charitable estate planning. So that site will come up for you. And then you can also search American Heart Association COVID-19, and we have an amazing resource page that can take you to the CDC's page. We can show you all the work that we're doing to respond to the virus. We can give you helpful tips about how to stay safe and even tips about your pets and COVID-19. So it's a wonderful resource page, and if there's anything that we can do for you, please let us know. Thank you. Bonnie Harris Hayden, Charitable Estate Planning, bonnie.hayden@heart.org. www.heart.org or 1-888-227-5242. Pop into your internet and search American Heart Association Planned Giving. Pop into your search engine and search American Heart Association COVID-19.